This is Future Fork, a show that explores the world of food and the decisions we can make today that will shape our future. On the show, you'll hear from innovators in the food space. We'll have disruptive conversations with people from around the globe who are taking the lead on topics like food sustainability, ending world hunger, food security, and so much more. I'm your host, Paul Newnham. In today's episode of Future Fork, I'm speaking to Ian Theasby and Henry Firth. Henry and Ian are the co-founders of BOSH, and they're all about plant-based flavor-packed food. And that's why they created this community. In our chat, we'll go back to the beginning of the BOSH story, starting from their shared childhood to their mission to make plant-based eating irresistibly delicious. The boys shared the origin of the name BOSH, and we spoke about the plant-based content they create. We delved into their creative process behind the recipe development. All right, let's BOSH. Henry and Ian, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's really good to see you again.
Absolutely. Great to be here in the BOSH studios or the BOSH HQ. So it's so great. So I'm sure you start every conversation with a little bit of looking back. So how did the BOSH story start? And Henry, why don't you jump in?
So we've been friends for ages. I'd say probably 27 years now, almost decades. In fact, yeah, it is decades.
You don't look that old.
Thank you very much. We've known each other since school, and we just happened to be living together about 10 years ago now in London, also working together. And Ian went vegan. He went vegetarian first, then he went vegan. It was a New Year health kick he was on. And at first I thought it was completely ridiculous, didn't I? But then I was big into trying to reduce climate change. I was looking for something new to do with my life and with my work, and was at the time looking at electric vehicles, electric motorcycles, electric batteries, and thinking, how can I do work that is meaningful and reduces climate change? Then we watched Cowspiracy together. I realized this big unknown truth at the time, that what we eat has an impact on our carbon footprint. And painful as it was, I said, Ian, you know what? You're right. I went vegan. And then we realized the next thing was to show other people how to eat vegan, because it was quite difficult.
Yeah, that's it. Well, both of us are from Sheffield, and we're both regular guys, or were regular guys for the longest time, eating regular food like meat and 2 veg. And when we decided to go plant-based, we literally had to completely relearn how to cook. And there wasn't that many resources online to teach you how to cook plants in a way that we wanted to eat them. So we had to basically come up with cool techniques about getting the most texture out of regular plant-based ingredients. And after a year of doing that, we recognized the fact that we had built up quite a considerable arsenal of really helpful recipes and techniques that we should be sharing with the world. And that's where the idea for BOSH came along.
And so where did the name come from?
It's a great question. So there's 2 answers. One is bish, bash, bosh, just get it in a pan, super quick and super easy. And the other one is
Boys of Sheffield.
Because we're Sheffield lads.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a double meaning.
Obviously, this has been an interesting journey for you guys. Ian, maybe what's something you're super proud of in this process?
I think the thing I'm most proud of is waking up every morning and knowing that the work that we do, the careers that we now have, are of benefit to many, many people, both in terms of their own personal health, in terms of the health of animals, and obviously in terms of the health of the environment as well. It's altruistic what we do in nature, and I think that it gives you a real sense of success every single day. But for specifics, I think the thing I'm most proud of, and the thing that I think about and it tickles me every time, is releasing our first plant-based cookbook, which has now become the best-selling plant-based cookbook in the world. And we launched it at Borough Market in 2018. And I didn't quite realize the impact that BOSH had had on so many people, because we turned up to Borough Market, which is actually quite a reasonably sized venue, and it was full of people. And we did our first ever cooking demonstration in front of all of these people, and it was a pinch me moment, but it was also a podium moment where we could stand and look at ourselves and go, what we're doing here is right.
No, and it's an amazing cookbook. And if you haven't seen, we'll drop into the chat links so people can get there. I know our family has been big BOSH fans for a long time, use the BOSH cookbooks and have bought them actually as Christmas gifts for, many in the family. So there's a lot of recipes which are not only delicious, but they're also accessible. They're easy to follow, they're easy to make, and that's really key. So where does the inspiration come from to develop recipes? Like, where does that come from?
Travel's always been quite big for Ian and I in developing recipes for BOSH. If you look through our cookbooks, and you have our cookbooks, as your family do at home, you will find recipes from all corners of the globe. And I think we tend to think about memories, favorites, food that we loved, moments that were incredible, and try and either recreate them or improve them. And obviously, so many of them were meat-based because we were meat eaters back then. So much of this is about us yearning to have the foods that we once loved. So for me, an example might be fish and chips. It sounds super simple, but that would be a staple on a difficult night. I'd go home and have fish and chips, or the amazing tacos, some of the amazing tacos we've had over in the Americas, some of the best burgers and steaks that we've had. The steak restaurant used to be my favorite, Le Relais de Venise, Le Entrecôte, which is in France, with a special sauce, the Café de Paris sauce, which we've recreated in one of our cookbooks. So it's often just trying to provide options for people who want a plant-based version of something incredible that either they've tried or we've eaten.
So in terms of favorite recipes?
My favorite recipe ever is the portobello mushroom Wellington that we wrote. I think it was maybe 7 years ago. It was coming up to Christmas, and we decided that we need to provide a real centerpiece that is going to replace the turkey perfectly for people who are going plant-based or have just turned plant-based. So we came up with the idea for, essentially, it's a nut roast that embalm roasted portobello mushrooms, and then all of that is wrapped in pastry. It's a real centerpiece. It looks there's a bit of theatre and a bit of drama attached to it because it's in the middle of the table. You bring out the carving knife, all the trimmings around the table, you cut off slices, you portion it up, and it does the same job as turkey. It's delicious. And every single year since we've released that recipe video, we get hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures come into our Instagram account of people who are making this dish on the most important dinner day of the year. So yeah, portobello mushroom Wellington.
It's tough to pick just one, It's really tough. I would say the one that gets cooked the most is probably the BOSH Ultimate Chili. That's both from me cooking it the most.
That has a little bit of chocolate in it.
Yeah, a little bit of dark chocolate. It's just a really solid spice mix, and lots of mushrooms go in there, decent amount of red wine, and it gives you this incredible umami flavor. But it's quite flexible, so it's quite a good base to just play around from. So that gets cooked the most. In terms of my favorite, it would be really difficult to pick one, but I would say the just general series of curries that we made across the more recent books, where you create the curry stock separately. So you essentially make a onion and vegetable stock, which is, you can batch it as well, which is great. And then you add that to any curry, and you've got a curry in minutes, which is how they make curries in the restaurants. So it's like a restaurant style curry. That's probably my favorite.
It's funny because obviously both of our names are on the front of the book, but all those curry recipes are most definitely Henry's.
I went deep on curries. I do like going deep on things.
How are beans showing up in your recipes?
Ian's obsessed by beans at the moment.
I am. I think so. I've been taken by the beanie wave, but the beanie wave started when we first started. I mean, if I were to cast my mind back to some of the first ever recipe video that we ever did, which was a healthy sushi cake. And the idea is that you take sushi ingredients and you layer them up like you would a Victoria sponge cake to make it easier, because a lot of people don't know how to roll sushi. But that video had edamame beans on the top. So we have always been big advocates of beans and always big fans of beans, and I think more and more we're just getting more and more experimental with beans. I had a really interesting idea the other day for a new bean recipe. There's a world first. We haven't even made the video for it. In fact, we haven't even written the recipe for it. But how's about this? If you make a cheesecake, but the cheese is blended butter beans.
Nice. Excellent. Bean cake.
I've had black beans in brownies. That's amazing. Like black beans in brownies has been very good. You can get the moisture in the mix.
And obviously full of protein, really nice texture. Yeah. It's quite clunky, which is what you want in a brownie. So yeah, that makes a whole bunch of sense.
I think there was some cheesecake work during COVID when wheat prices went up. I heard about some food developers moving towards alternates and then looking at the improvements in health. I would have a look at that. That could be cool. I want to see that recipe, that world first.
If you think about it, beans are everything, right? Because tofu and tempeh are made from beans. And if you think about a vegan cheesecake, that would often have silken tofu put inside the mix. So ultimately, that is already
A bean cheesecake.
So it's kind of already been done. You're kind of
it.
ahead of yourself, but also unwittingly behind yourself. But also, like, beans are such a good thing for us to be eating. Not only obviously high in protein, high in fiber, high in vitamins. We should all be munching on them on a daily basis. But also all of these alt proteins, and we talked about this a bit before we got on, but all of these alt proteins that are out there at the moment that are offering you some pretty decent nutritionals and pretty decent environmental footprints as well, when compared to, you know, the animal alternatives, they're all made from beans. They're just bean burgers, kind of a little bit more manufactured, but it's still a bean burger. So we should all be eating more beans.
We've all read it about UPFs, ultra-processed foods, and plant-based meats are just being absolutely demonized at the moment in the wider media. And frankly, it's ridiculous because they are literally just bean burgers, as you say. We were lucky enough to visit an alternative meat processing facility in the Netherlands, and the guy who's very knowledgeable showed us around. We had the beard nets on and the full white coat job. And we were in there. What you're essentially doing is, rather than taking beans and mushing them up and turning them into patties, you're taking beans and you're blasting them into a flour and then turning them into a protein that way. So it's just a little bit more processing, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're ultra processed.
Well, it's a bit like how we make bread. So if we're coming from the school of thought that bread is an ultra processed product and you're just literally eating vegetables, absolutely, you are the champion, right? You're winning at life. But if we're saying like bread's cool, we're down with a bit of bread as long as it's like the better kind of bread. I think the same applies to plant-based proteins as well, which is it's that similar level of processing. And as with anything, there's good ones and bad ones.
I was thinking about this the other day. Do you remember the brand Mighty White? I don't think they're a thing anymore, Mighty White bread. But if you just think about that bread, not very good. It's almost like a fabric. So that's on one side of the scale. And then the other side of the scale, you've got Gale's sourdough, 3 or 4 ingredients, just delicious.
Yeah.
And it's like that with any food stuff, including plant-based meats. You get the good.
So what else would you say at the moment are some of the big challenges for really increasing plant-based eating that you guys are learning and seeing?
I think there's just a bit of an image problem happening, and you've got some probably well-meaning authors putting out books like ultra-processed people, advocating for a whole food, often mostly plant-based diet, and starting with a really good message. But then it gets a bit confused in the literature and in the media, and it becomes basically a scorn on plant-based proteins, which are actually a more efficient alternative. You've also got that being a little bit fueled purposefully by lobby groups from the States. There's evidence. You can look at the adverts they took out in the New York Times to compare plant-based meat to dog food and things like that. And what the effect that's had has been quite pervasive in the conversations. What's really good to see is that there is lots of good science coming out about sustainable food. There's incredible campaigns, like obviously the one that you run. When you actually get to the decision makers and the people who are looking at the data, they understand how we should all be moving to a more plant-forward way of thinking. So it's just kind of, we know that the thinkers and the builders understand what the true path is. But I think the general public are still a little bit swayed by the scare tactics that are everywhere.
So in terms of, you guys have been doing this for a number of years now, what's some of the learnings that you've had through the process and maybe pivots that you kind of wish you knew when you first started?
Well, hindsight is a beautiful thing. If only we had it before you get it. But okay, so I would honestly say that I wish that we had focused our efforts more on YouTube a few years ago, because we started on Facebook and blew up on Facebook and it was great. And then we went on Instagram and that did really well too. But we were a little bit late to the party with YouTube and didn't pay it enough mind. Now, over lockdown, we were making a lot of YouTube content. And that actually, if you look at it now, it's pretty damn good. But then we took our foot off the gas a little bit, which is annoying. But what we intend to do, what we're planning right now, is a brand new series of long form cooking videos that we'll host on YouTube, that will be television quality, that will be produced with somebody that we met out in New York. And I kind of wish that we had done that sooner. Another thing that I kind of wish that we had done sooner is we were very, very lucky and worked very, very hard to get listings in supermarkets with lots of different products. But I think if we probably should have paid a little bit more mind to some of the products that we could have made at the time that we were releasing other products. But, like you say, hindsight's a beautiful thing.
Interesting. You've never said that to me before,
No.
so that's a world exclusive for me as well.
We got it right here.
I think that's fair. We had BOSH products everywhere on supermarket shelves to begin with. And as with anything, you've got to kind of refine them. Some don't do as well as others. But I think now we've ended up with a really strong range, which we can be proud of. And obviously, we've been doing this almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
So if we've only made those couple of mistakes, I'd say we're not doing too badly.
I think you're doing an amazing job. Is there anything else that you're working on to make plants more delicious, accessible, and available?
I think a big thing for us is health. A big focus for us is health now. It always has been a part of the reason that we cook plant-based food for people, but we're both new fathers now. So we've got kids. Mine's 1.5. Ian's is just over a half.
8 months coming up.
Congrats. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. And so with that comes a new focus, or at least has come for both of us, a new focus on longevity and health and all of those aspects. But I'd say it is that more middle of the road, accessible focus of health rather than this striving for perfection thing that is being talked about by people like Tim Spector or in the book Ultra Processed People. So we just like to think about what's in the food that we're eating, or what nutrients are we getting on a daily basis, what supplementation are we doing, if any, exercise, muscle, protein, healthy fats, all of that good stuff. And it's become a little bit more of an obsession for us. And it's going to be finding its way into the videos that we make for people as well.
Is there a kids cooking?
We shouldn't we? Baby BOSH.
We haven't done it yet, but we keep hearing this all of the time. I mean, we're weaning my baby at the moment, and he's got a great appetite and he's eating lots of food. Yeah, there's not that many brands who are doing loads of really good quality baby pouches and food. So yeah, potentially we could get into that. We did actually discuss doing that a while ago, but then it would be very insincere because neither of us were fathers. And now we are in the place where we can kind of talk about this because we're living it.
But you're both fathers, and so limited time now.
Yes, exactly. In my spare half an hour a day. Yeah.
Before we move to the next question, one question that I just would love to hear your view as new fathers, will you guys, and also, having a very online presence, will you guys think about how you bring your kids into that world? Like, what's your advice in that sense?
As in, how do we bring them into the social? Yeah, it's a tough one. And Ian and I aren't quite on the same page with this one at the moment.
I think that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, we're not the same people. So my partner, MJ, she's on Instagram. She's a professional makeup artist. She talks about sustainable living and also low toxic living as well. So avoiding these toxic ingredients that often find their way into makeup and things like that. And her background is very successful celebrity makeup artist and beauty campaign makeup artist. She does a lot of Instagram. So Berry, our lovely baby Berry Fox Firth, has found her way onto her Instagram from time to time. And I'm okay with that. And I think we will probably be bringing her to a degree into the picture as BOSH, because if we're bringing some family vibes in here, you need to see a bit of baby.
Yeah.
For us, that's where we're at the moment, although I can completely understand the alternative opinion.
So I haven't put my baby online at all. In fact, I think the only place that he's popped up online is in my dad's blog.
So we can go and Google that now, can we?
What's world exclusive.
Yeah, what's the blog?
But it's yorkshirepudding.beefgravy@blogspot.com.
Very apt.
Mate, and he gets views, He's been doing it for 15 years, and he has got hundreds and hundreds of thousands.
Father like son?
Well, that's true. I haven't put him online. I think what I'd sooner do is put him in more traditional media. So say if we were going to do a baby cookbook, I have no problem whatsoever in featuring him in there. But it's just, if I go onto my personal Instagram, there's, 7,000 people. I don't know 7,000 people. There's a whole bunch of people on there that I don't know, I've never met. So for me to be popping him up on there, I don't know, it feels a bit odd. But down the line, with regard to children and technology, screen time is something I think that we're particularly worried about, because he's never even really been on the phone, but he sees the phone and he's grasping for the phone. He wants the phone, and it's just such a magical thing. It's like a black square of metal that all the answers are in, and he knows that. And then obviously with the TV, we never play him any cartoons. The only TV that he really watches is if there's some sport on. So he's been watching a lot of tennis recently with his mum. And actually the other day we were watching Aussie Rules football because it was very early in the morning and he had just got up. Yeah, but I think it's a minefield, frankly, that the screen time with kids. So if anybody has any answers to that, answers on a postcard, please.
The whole role media plays is obviously incredibly powerful, and you guys have shown that through the work you do in terms of influencing people's choices. And I think how we think about the next generation is critical as well. So it's good to hear your views. I heard all the different views on that side. So one question that I really love to kind of wrap the conversations up a bit is a bit of a fun question. What's something that you're really enjoying eating at the moment?
I think for me, it's a really obvious one, and it's just pizza. But I've spent a lot of time hosting pizza parties.
Have you got a pizza oven? Talk to us about.
I've got a pizza oven. It's not a really fancy brick made.
What have you got?
It's a Cuisinart one, isn't it?
Yes. The old one was an Uni. Now it's Cuisinart. And we just get everybody round. And what I'll do is I'll make the dough, it'll be literally the day before I've made the dough. I've got loads of dough that's already perfectly ready to go, shaped into dough balls.
What's your recipe?
I try and play different ones all the time. At the moment, I'm using one where it's kind of refined from Alex French Guy Cooking, but then refined even further into a little bit more like the Neapolitan style. So it gets a perfect dough, super, super fluffy. And obviously you want to get it like nice and brown on the bottom and nice and fluffy. You're really looking for that really high grade, crispy bottom and brown spots around the edges. And then I'll get all the kids round and all the family members and friends round, and all of the toppings are all pre-prepared so they can make their own pizzas. And it's just such a wonderful, fun activity to do with friends. So that is a big one for me.
Yeah, I can attest to them. The pizza's delicious. And in fact, I think we've, in our latest cookbook, BOSH Meat, which is obviously a plant-based cookbook that celebrates plant-based meat and vegetables with texture, you've got a recipe, I think it's Henry's plant-based pizza party.
Yes, it's in the book.
It's in the book, yeah. So delicious. What have I been enjoying cooking? Do you know what? I'm going to say, I've actually recently downloaded MyFitnessPal because I was carrying a little bit of excess and I wanted to drop a little excess after having a baby. So at the moment, I'm kind of tracking the food that I'm eating. So I'm trying to eat quite healthy at the moment, like trying to really watch the macros, reduce the amount of food I'm eating. And so that's one thing. But actually what I'm having every single day, I think a couple of people in the office are having it every day, is mushroom powder. So functional mushrooms, because obviously beans are having a real moment at the moment, but mushrooms are having a real moment at the moment too. So it's, it's a blend of chaga, lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, all popped into one pot, and it tastes like hot chocolate, and you drink it every day. Gives you real clarity of thought, it gives you intense focus, doesn't give you the jitteriness of coffee. And I can see a big future for mushrooms alongside beans.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having us. It's been loads of fun.
You've been listening to Future Fork, a show that explores the world of food and the decisions we can make today that will shape our future. Future Fork is produced by Disruptive Consulting Solutions and supports the SDG2 Advocacy Hub. For more info, head to the website futureforkpodcast.com. This show was produced with strategy and production support from Wavelength Creative. So you don't miss an episode of Future Fork, make sure to subscribe to or follow the show in your podcast app. And while you're there, leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others find the show. I'm Paul Newnham, and I'll see you in the next episode.